Jim Walsh, Courier Post.
What's that? Sure. Counselor, is this going to be you and your client, because we're trying to get the numbers right for the two of you?
There's three of us, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you can come on up, sir.
Well,
Well,
that's good, and then we have one empty seat left for another. Does that help?
sure.
Okay. One more.
Nobody at court.
Yes.
How do I put this on mute? Do you know? Check. Good.
All right, where's that coming from? Jimmy, somebody's asking how to put it on mute.
I don't think it's people logging in.
She may not have a Boston spot. But she's letting them one more. I think there's room for one more, so she's letting someone else in. Bill, is that you behind that mask?
It is.
All right. You got in?
Go figure.
Yeah. How you been?
Well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
You have some people calling in?
I think we're waiting, they're gonna fill that seat, and our clerk can come in. Can we get our clerk in so we can start? Thank you very much, officer.
I asked Mr. Long because I have to be at my council meeting at 7.
That's fine.
Okay.
We're gonna move quick. I agree with you 100%.
Sorry.
Okay, we're ready to roll.
The live stream was off.
Hmm?
I was just making sure the live stream was working.
Okay, is it working?
Yep.
Great. Mayor, as soon as you give you the word, we can get started.
Ready?
Fran, we good?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On August 4th, 2020, notice of this special meeting was emailed to the Courier Post newspaper and duly posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met in compliance with the Sunshine Law. This meeting will be conducted in person and remotely to assure compliance with the New Jersey social distance and CDC requirements, without providing a physical meeting place and by electronic means in accordance with the public laws of 2020, Chapter 11. Roll call, Fran.
Councilman DeAngelis?
Here.
Councilman Casey?
Here.
Councilman D'Angelo?
Here.
Councilman Wilhelm?
Here.
Councilman Haggerty?
Here.
Councilman Bider?
Here.
Mayor Sauter?
Here. At this part of the meeting for the new business, I will now turn over the microphone and the meeting to the Borough Attorney, Howard Long, to proceed.
Thank you, Mayor.
Muted.
Madam Clerk, are we good?
Unmuted.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming, and thank you for abiding by the safety restrictions laid out earlier by the mayor. In order for as many people as possible to engage and participate in this meeting, we've done a couple of unusual things. One, we're having a physical meeting within the municipal building with folks attending, which is the first time that that's happened in a significant amount of time with the social distancing requirements. Number two, we're live streaming the meeting on YouTube. And for anyone that's interested, immediately after the meeting is over, that will be on the borough's website. And just as soon as the meeting concludes, the actual open meeting, this is an open meeting, not a closed meeting, will be on the website, and people are watching us live now. In addition, we're affording any members of the public who would like to make comments to do that in a public portion, because every meeting that we have, there has to be, whether it's a special meeting or otherwise, there must be by law, a public portion. So, under new businesses, consideration of the revocation of a mercantile license number 002448 for Triple Threat Gym LLC, doing business as Attilis Gym Bellmawr, by the mayor and borough council. And this matter, the reason that we're here, by way of introduction, arises out of the borough's issuance of a mercantile license on June 2nd, 2020 to Triple Threat Gym LLC, doing business as Attilis Gym. The business owners reflected in the mercantile license application are Frank Trombetta and Ian A. Smith. Mr. Smith and Mr. Trombetta, with all due respect, you're both here?
Mr. Smith is.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Trombetta here?
No.
Okay. Do we expect them?
No.
Okay, thank you. So we have Mr. Smith present, and based upon my conversations, the gentleman and counsel that are representing them this evening, who has reached out to me last week and this week, is John McCann. Mr. McCann, you're here?
I am.
Thank you. On behalf of the business and the individuals, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Municipal governments, just by a little bit of background, such as the Borough of Bellmawr, are authorized under their enabling legislation, in this case NJSA 48:60-1, to adopt ordinance for the accomplishment of any public purpose authorized by law, such as reasonable regulations of businesses within the communities, which is permitted under the New Jersey state law. As such, on March 16th, 1972, a long time ago, the mayor and borough council adopted, the then mayor and borough council adopted ordinance number 4-72, the fourth ordinance adopted that year, which was codified in the Borough of Bellmawr Code Book at section 266-13. And that ordinance mandates that persons or businesses and entities engaging in or carrying on any business or trade calling is required to have a mercantile license. And that particular section is section ordinance 266-13. 266-19 says that no license shall be issued to any person or entity which has not complied with the laws of the state of New Jersey or the ordinances of the Borough of Bellmawr, providing regulations respecting the safety of persons who have occasion to utilize that premise, place, or thing licensed. In case any person licensed fails to comply with such laws and ordinance, after due notice and an opportunity to be heard by the licensee, the borough may consider revocation of the mercantile license. With that, I've handed out, and I do have a few extra if anybody wants one in the public. I've made as many copies as I could, but and if we can get those and make them available to anyone that wants them. And I did supply them to council and gave him 2 extra copies. And if we can do this as quickly as possible, Madam Clerk, I just want to go through a few issues with you. Do you have that packet?
Yes, it is.
And would you look at item A, the first item?
Yes,
You have it?
I do.
And as item A, the mercantile license application for Triple Threat Gym LLC doing business as Attila's Gym in Bellmawr.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and does it indicate the name of the business owners?
Yes, it does.
And is that Mr. Trombetta and Mr. Smith?
Yes, it is.
And that was submitted on June 2nd, correct?
Correct.
I would ask that you look at item B. Is that the actual mercantile license form issued by the Borough of Bellmawr?
Yes, it is.
And was that license issued effective June 1, 2020 to May 31st, 2021, on July 28th, 2020?
That's correct.
And do you do this customarily in your practice as the municipal clerk, issue these types of certificates?
Myself and Tina Johnson, the licensing officer, yes.
Thank you. Now, with respect, we had this scheduled for last Tuesday, but regrettably, there were storms, there were power outages throughout the community and throughout many towns due to a tropical storm that came way far inland than anyone anticipated, and there was a state of emergency. We were scheduled to do this last Tuesday, August 4th at 5 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
And on item C, did you send notice of a special meeting for that particular date?
Yes, it is.
And was that published in the Camden Courier Post 48 hours in advance of the meeting?
Yes, it was.
And those two items are reflected in item C?
Yes.
And at my direction, when it was continued because of the weather situation and the hazard and the warning that people should not be traveling, did you send them another notice for this evening at 5 o'clock?
Yes, I did.
And that notice is reflected in item D?
That's correct.
And also attached is proof of publication at least 48 hours in advance, that was published in the Courier 48 hours prior to tonight's meeting regarding a special meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk, I appreciate you clarifying that for me. By way of background, as I mentioned, item E is actually our mercantile license. And for the benefit of council, the relevant provision to consider would be section 19 on page 2. Is everybody with me, Mayor and Council, on our mercantile ordinance? The part you should focus on, and the standard of review here, is that essentially that section of the ordinance says that you can regulate businesses, and you can provide that business is required to respect the safety of persons who may have occasion to use the premises, and that after an opportunity for them to be heard, which we're certainly going to afford Attila's Gym that opportunity this evening, you as mayor and council can consider a revocation based upon whether or not you believe, as the ordinance says, they're in violations of law, which could potentially affect the safety of persons. So I wanted you to be familiar with the ordinance. Also, just attached for reference as Exhibit F is our form of government. In this instance, it permits in section under powers of the mayor, 40A 60-5G, the mayor. Wrong section. I apologize. It's 60-3G. The mayor, when necessary, one of his powers is to call special meetings of council. Mayor Slaughter, did you call this special meeting?
Yes, I
Did you direct the clerk to publish it?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. And that was done in accordance with our borough form of government. In addition, item G, on July 29, 2020, notice was provided to Attila's Gym's registered agent, Mr. Smith, Mr. Trombetta, and the gym itself. At that point in time, I was unaware of whether they were represented in the matter, which indicated basically what the ordinance said, a little bit of background information, what a mercantile license is, and specifically that they would be given an opportunity to be heard, that there would be limited attendance within the meeting, but we would do everything possible to allow for the meeting to be conducted remotely, which we are doing this evening. And council was kind enough to accept that letter, even though it was scheduling the matter for Tuesday, August 4th. Council and I agreed last week on Tuesday, right before the meeting was commenced, or in the afternoon, that there was no need to send another letter out. Is that correct, council?
That is correct.
Thank you. So, just some information to provide for council to consider. In reviewing the litigation that was filed, we all have access, attorneys have access to court dockets and court public records. And I've attached for council's consideration in item H, the May 20th, 2020 order of Judith M. Percitelli, RN, BSN, MA, Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Health, ordering the closure of Attila's Gym located at 363 West Browning Road in Bellmawr. And attached, you will see that the order issued by the New Jersey State Department of Health, which was dated May 20th, 2020, indicated that the gym shall remain closed until further notice. No members of the public, including members of the gym, shall be permitted inside. Closure shall commence immediately and shall remain in effect till lifted by the department, and failure to comply with the conditions of this order may result in criminal sanctions or civil penalties. And it is signed by Judith Percitelli, who is the, I understand it, the Commissioner of Health that we see on TV every day. In addition, we have Captain, you were promoted, I apologize. And I swore I wasn't going to demote you here today, Captain, so I apologize for that. Mike Dram, would you just stand up, Captain? If you would look at item I, in conjunction with the matter filed in the Mercer County Court by the Office of Attorney General, were you asked to submit a certification?
Yes, I was.
And is that certification, that two-page certification that's under item I dated May 22nd, 2020, is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
And do you still stand by the truthfulness of the certifications that you made relative to the situation at the gym?
Yes.
And in your certification, you say, I personally observed that Attila's Gym was open to patrons on May 18th, May 19th, and May 20th, and that you issued several summonses to the co-owners of the gym on those same days. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as Exhibit 1, are they the summonses that you actually had issued?
Yes.
Now, what did you see out there to cause you to issue those summonses, Captain?
The owners of the business,
Could you speak up and a little clearer so we have it for the record?
the owners of the business were allowing people inside to use the gym. They'd be in there for a while with their gym bags on, and they'd come out. And most of the time, they were shouting to the people out protesting a lot, or not protesting, but with the owners, supporting the owners that they had worked out.
And as a result of that, was that a violation of something in your opinion?
Yes, it was a violation of the governor's order, emergency order.
Okay. And as a result of that, you issued those summonses, correct?
Yes,
And there's a number of summonses over a number of days?
yes,
Great. And those are issued under your signature?
yes, sir.
Thank you. And you observed those activities on those days where the governor's order was violated?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We also have our chief. Chief Walsh?
Yes.
There were criminal complaints also issued on July 27, 2020 to Mr. Trombetti and Mr. Smith under Exhibit J. Councilman D'Angelo, would you help out our chief on Exhibit A, or do we? Chief, can you tell me in a general sense, those criminal complaints, who they were filed against, and your knowledge of them, and why they were filed?
These were filed by the Camden County Prosecutor's Office against both gym owners.
And do you know the offenses in which they were charged?
I believe it was a violation of the governor's order and maintain a nuisance, I believe.
So there were 3 counts, correct, Chief?
Yes.
The first one is obstructing, which is a disorderly persons offense, correct?
Correct.
And the other is obstructing or impeding the effectuation of a judicial order by specifically failing to comply with the July 24th, 2020 order of Judge Lugie, by refusing to leave the premises of Attila's Gym, and that's a crime of the 4th degree, correct, a felony?
That's correct.
And lastly, there was also a disorderly person's offense, again, by refusing to leave the premises in violation of the Disaster Control Act, is that correct?
That's correct.
In addition, during the times that you were out there, Chief, generally, did you make observations of what was transpiring, and whether there were any times when they were outside the premises, or outside the building and in the parking lot?
I wasn't out there, I wasn't one of the officers out there, but when I drove by, there's people outside.
You've seen it?
Yes.
And what did you observe?
There's people outside the building going in and out, and, it's a full lot.
To your knowledge, did they ever come to the Borough of Bellmawr and ask for an amended site plan or anything of a zoning nature which would have permitted them to be outside?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Chief. I also attached for your consideration, again, from the pleadings filed in court, it's a court order, we could take certainly notice of this, dated May 22nd, 2020, issued by the Honorable Robert Lugie, who's the presiding judge of the Chancery Division in the Mercer County Superior Court, closing Attila's Gym and enforcing the New Jersey Department of Health's emergency closure order dated May 22nd, 2020. And a copy of that order is actually attached. And the important part is ordered this 22nd day of May 2020 that the plaintiff request for temporary restraints enjoining the defendant Attila's Gym from operating its facility is hereby granted. It shall remain closed until the closure is lifted by the Department of Health or some other authority, and that the plaintiff, who is the Commissioner of Health, was authorized to take steps to secure the premises and ensure that it was closed to the public. Chief, are you aware, after this order was entered in May 22nd of 2020, whether people continued to frequent the premises or go in that establishment?
Yes, I did.
And they did?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. I direct your attention to item L, which is an order issued July 24th, 2020, by, again, Judge Lugie, holding Attila's Gym in contempt of court, indicating on July 20th, 2020, the order enforcing the Department of Health, and under that particular order of contempt that was entered, it was specifically ordered that the defendant Attila's Gym was found to be in contempt of the court's order enforcing the Department of Health's July 1, 2020 modified order. And there's some open items in terms of fines and things of that nature that we don't really need to get into, only, again, focusing on the safety issues. We also have with us our zoning officer and property maintenance officer, Mr. Burley. Welcome. Would you come forward, sir? Thank you. Would you grab a packet and go to Exhibit M? It's towards the rear. It's probably the last exhibit.
Okay.
Now, you're in charge of you're the zoning officer, so you're in charge of land use?
Yes,
And you're also in charge of property maintenance?
that's correct.
And at my request, did you go through the property maintenance code and the land use ordinance to determine potential violations of local rules and regulations and ordinances by Attila's Gym, Mr. Smith and Mr. Trombetta?
I did.
And can you tell us what you found? I don't believe you cited anybody at this point, is that correct?
We did cite as of last week.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Thank you for that update. Could you tell me what you cited, and can you tell me what you saw as violations of Bellmaur's ordinances?
They were cited for the failure to obtain a change of use certificate, which is required for any type of business that comes into town that is given a CO to occupy a building and operate their business. At that point, during the week of June 28th, that week, give or take, in that area, I don't have it right in front of me at this moment. However, the majority of the inside of the premises was moved to the exterior into the parking lot, where the patrons were operating the business in the common parking lot, not within the confines of the building where the CO was issued.
Did that create a dilemma of any type?
Several.
And what were they?
health and safety issue for the general public passing through that shared parking lot, which was a concern.
Did they ever come to you as a zoning officer or the Borough of Bellmawr that you're aware and ask for permission to move their facilities outside?
Not to me.
And are they required to do so?
Yes, sir.
And they did not do that.
They did not.
What else did you review out there, and what else did you determine?
There was several other items that were out there that were also cited were some large piece of commercial equipment that is on the exterior of the building that creates a hazard for passing children in the area. If they should pull one of those, a piece of that equipment that's left outside on top of them, that would pose an immediate danger to health and safety, along with water from the weather conditions that could gather and cause a mosquito infestation in the area.
Anything else?
That's it at this time. There's still pending litigation.
I can appreciate that. Thank you. Is there any questions from any members of council or the mayor? I have of me or anyone who's provided communication. I'm not going to call it testimony because it's not sworn testimony. This is not a court of law. This is not a criminal court. This is a low-level administrative proceeding where the law says we have to provide information regarding safety issues. And if you determine that if this facility's ongoing operation is unsafe, you have an ability, or you may decide not to, or you may decide to consider a revocation of their license. Again, with regard to the safety standard, and before we could take any action, it's imperative that we give these folks an opportunity to defend themselves. As I said to council, that could be by him calling the owners, making representations himself, any kind of documents that he wanted to submit, that this was going to sort of be fairly open and informal. There are no rules of evidence. He didn't stop me from saying anything, and I appreciate that. There were no objections. This is not a court. So, counsel, anything that you want to say in defense of your client, this is now your opportunity to be heard.
Mr. Long, thank you.
You're quite welcome, sir.
I want to thank you for your professionalism over the last 10 days. As the state was hit with the blackout and through the storm and everyone having to deal with that, whether you were in North Jersey, South Jersey, it affected everyone there. I want to thank the mayor and council for coming to this special meeting call of a matter that is vitally important to your community. I've been in government, local government, and state government for a long time, but I have never in my career seen an elected body step into it the way, or what I'm witnessing today. I've never seen it. There is, as presented by council, an opportunity to be heard that is specious. I sent council a letter outlining my personal objections and my legal objections to the requirement that we be heard today. My clients are not being heard today. They want to speak. Mr. Trambetti and Mr. Smith have a lot to say. The national media has been brought into your town. Not just Republican media, CNN as well. And there's no one more concerned about the health and safety of people than the people who operate their own businesses in this state. Mr. Smith and Mr. Trambetti would be the first people to close their gym if it posed a risk and a danger to this community, and in particular their customers, not to mention their own families. They are not being heard today. Their attorney is. If you've witnessed their interviews on television, you will see that they are more articulate than any attorney they could hire in this state. I'm lucky that they've chosen me to represent them. And in that regard, I have a job to do. So my critique and criticism of the borough is professional. It's not personal. It's not aimed at any particular council member, but me, the mayor, the clerk. In fact, I have a council meeting to go to this evening. But what you're doing here by having this meeting, while there are criminal charges pending in your borough, is obnoxious to the system of government that we have in America and in New Jersey. I cannot see for the life of me why your community has brought charges calling them here, saying you're afforded the opportunity to be heard, while they have a Fifth Amendment right to protect as they come before your court, which I now believe will be conflicted out after today. They have a Fifth Amendment right not to speak. What I just witnessed by the borough employees was nothing short of something out of George Orwell. You are considering charges, allegations, a court proceeding that is ongoing, while you come before them and even entertain the thought of suspending their license. On what basis? Health and safety. You know what I didn't hear from your experts or your employees? I didn't hear one single safety standard articulated. What I heard was conclusions. The Attorney General said they can go outside, and yet they're being cited for being outside working out and moving the equipment. Attorney General of this state said they can do it. And then a couple of weeks later, your borough comes and says, oh, now we're going to cite you. I heard I saw violations. Well, good. Bring it to the court and make your findings. Show us and prove the safety standard that you observed. Show me what safety standard you applied. Because getting a memo or an order from the governor or an order from the Department of Health is not evidence of a safety standard. That is a conclusion. Particularly for the police officers, you learn, just like lawyers do, that there is a substantial difference between a conclusion and evidence. And to stand here and put up almost a mockery of I don't even know if it's a judicial process, it's called a low administrative hearing. If it's a low administrative hearing, you have to stay this matter until all of these matters are adjudicated. You can't consider as evidence any of that. And the fact that it's been put on the record in your minds, I can't undo that. But what I can tell you, if you proceed down that hole, you have endangered the taxpayers' money of this town. That's a professional opinion. I'm sure there are plenty of professional opinions out there. I'm highly confident in mine. And that's what I meant by you stepping into it. I was getting texts from my counsel, co-counsel in this case. We've been doing that through these processes. And I basically said, counsel, don't interrupt. When you see someone heading down the wrong hole, let them go. Keep digging. I don't know what to tell you. I am asking this council not to do that to the taxpayers of this town. Don't risk their money that way. Don't do that. You have a responsibility to them as well. Has anyone from this town done any safety inspection of the Achilles gym? Is there any evidence that anyone's died from the Achilles gym? Is there any evidence that anyone's gotten sick from the Achilles gym? Right now, Mayor and Council, I would submit to you, if you saw the safety protocols that are in place in this gym, it is probably the safest, it's the safest place in New Jersey right now. Right now, the state of New Jersey is operating in New Jersey Transit. No information about who's getting on. People are getting on the train in a cylinder, 325 square feet. People breathing. People out of breath. People sweating from coming outside. We were waiting outside for you guys today. We sweated a little bit. That's why I looked inside, right? So you have this cylinder. People coming on and off. No names, no contact tracing. Sometimes outside, sometimes indoor. How does that comport with the Achilles gym? Well, let's see. They take the names and addresses of everybody's cell phones, addresses, and when they sign a piece of paper, they take the very pencil and they put it aside for decontamination. When I came down to meet these people, the first thing I said to Mr. Smith and Mr. Trembetti, show me what you do. Do you have any evidence of that's a violation of any of your health and safety standards? I suggest to you that you should be talking to them on how to establish health and safety standards. But taking away the mercantile license for what purpose? We have federal potential, and I think solid violations of federal law at several levels. And this is going to take a while to resolve. Closing them down serves no public purpose. There's no evidence that it's unsafe. You've provided no safety standard established to even bring these charges or to even bring these complaints in a public hearing. I would suggest to you that what we heard today was slander of the business. And I'm sorry. This proceeding is shocking. I have seen what COVID does personally. My wife, in the beginning of March, spent 18-hour shifts in the Bronx. She's a high-risk physician. She deals with high-risk pregnancies. I watched my wife work like a dog for 15 weeks. I got to be the Uber driver. In fact, there was some personal cost to that. It took me away from something else I was doing. But that was more important to me. I've seen some of her colleagues die. I've seen her express her frustration with what was going on in the Bronx. I've seen it up close and personal. I know what this disease does. And if you've had people who have died, my sympathies and condolences. I'm going to tell you something. One of the owners of this gym, Mr. Trembetti, lost his relative, his mother. Do you think Mr. Trembetti wants to pose a risk to your community? Mr. Trembetti and Mr. Smith are business owners. That's all they are. They're not fancy people. They're just trying to make a living. They're doing what they believe protects people. They believe in working out. If I believed in it better, I'd look different. But I can tell you empirically, there's not one case coming out of that gym. And if the state had it, they would do it. There's a lot of contention here. This isn't personal between Mr. Trembetti and the governor. This is a very simple question. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, whether we do this year, whether we do it in the fall, whether we do it this month. I've heard the governor say repeatedly, we go by the science. That's what he said. Mayor, when you make a public statement, you take that seriously. Do you not?
Correct.
Of course. And you feel obligated, and when you speak, you know that you're speaking from the truth and from the heart. This is a community. You walk the streets, you go to the store here, correct?
Correct.
And so your decisions, you know how it affects people. The council people know that. Some of you may have coached sports here. Everyone in the community knows that. I wish I could say the same for the governor. But I've seen those statements. And I'm going to tell you, what we don't have, like we don't have today, is evidence against this gym. This is America. Since when do we stratify for criminal charges groups of industry? How is that even possible as Americans? It isn't right wing, left wing, it's not chicken wing either. We're stratifying businesses because they have a label. The governor says there's science. Well, here's what we don't have. Governor, show us the science that you keep saying exists. I'll look at it. Heck, I've seen what it does, the end result of the disease does. Show us. You want the Tillis gym will close tomorrow if we could see the science. And the community that you're in, where your business operates, should be joining them in asking the governor, show us the science before we close them down and ruin their lives and take away their livelihood. You should be joining in that request. This isn't about Republican and Democrat. This is about our communities. How many times have you heard local government say when you run for office, this isn't about party, this is about our community? You're all familiar with that? We can all relate to that. So I'm asking you, heck, I'm begging you, demand the science from the state that they're relying on. Publish it. If the governor in the Department of Health has science that says this gym is a danger and it's dangerous, show us. Give us the dignity of letting us see what you have, so that you, before you explain to the people when you go to the grocery store, or when you go to the local diner, why you had to shut them down. Because I saw the science. The science says gyms are dangerous. Are all gyms dangerous? That's a separate question. Is this gym dangerous? That's the question. We're not talking about all gyms here. We're talking about this gym. How do you weigh that against public transportation, as I just described? You have a responsibility to the broader taxpayers. No one, and I'm the last guy that would ever want to bring a suit to a mayor and council. They don't want to do that. They just want to work. If you're getting political pressure, push back. I understand that. This is your community. This is not about the Republican and Democrat. This is your community where you get to say to the people, yeah, until this gym was closed, let me tell you why. Because the state showed me the science that they keep saying is out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to that science. Ultimately, there's no avoiding this. And I believe they probably have it. But it's odd, isn't it? That the place that's got almost 15,000 visitors?
Over 18,000.
18,000 visitors. Names, addresses, cell phones, everything. You want to do contract tracing? Talk to these guys. The problem is no one's been sick. That's a fact. You want him to swear? You want to swear? I mean, he'll testify to it, but he can't today because you've got criminal charges on him. What are we doing? It's America. I'm begging you to stand up and stand up for science and stand up for your community. We're going to be filing some papers in court very soon that are going to be getting to the science here. Conclusions. People making statements of fact when they don't have the facts. I observed they were doing this, that's good. I saw that, yes, and you're entitled to your observations. But you're saying they violated safety standards. What's the standard? When you say they posed a threat, how? Okay, I understand. Posed a threat as compared to what? That's basic law, that's basic fairness. It's not even law. It's equitable, it's fair. Tell these guys what safety standards you applied before you close them. I know, listen, you have one of the best borough attorneys in the state. I mean that. I don't even know him, but my dealings with him in the last 10 days have been solid, okay? And he gets it, but this proceeding, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it on a community level. We all want to protect our citizens. No one wants to die of this disease. Mr. Trembetti suffered one of the ultimate horrors when he lost his mother and he couldn't see her. Now, I'm not going to get into the governor putting people into nursing homes when they are already affected. My borough is doing an investigation into that. My borough has 3 nursing homes in it. I can't comment on it because it's being done by council people. But I can tell you, whether that's a mistake or not, it could be. But let's assume it is for a second. So what? People are making the best decisions possible. I don't mean so what for the people who died. I mean, everyone is making wartime decisions, battle decisions. What I'm asking you today, in this pandemic, don't make a tactical battlefield error and hurt your taxpayers. I would demand a sign. I would say, Governor, show me that this gym is a danger. You have a right to that. Whether it's political requests or not, you have a right as the governing body of this community to ask for that evidence. Join me in asking for that evidence. Because I'm going to tell you, it's not going to stop. There are people calling my office every 20 minutes now. People have had it. And the governor and the Department of Health can alleviate a lot of this nonsense. Instead of claiming they have science, help us, show us. Because right now, if that is the science, they are an outlier. Does that mean the outlier should be crushed? You should destroy their lives? It's not easy when you're a councilman. It's not easy when you're a mayor. These are not easy decisions. You have to weigh the health and safety of everybody. And I agree with that. But where's the evidence that they are a danger? There is nothing before you, not one scintilla of evidence. You have introductory documents here, charges. You're going to close these guys down before any of this is adjudicated? You don't know that these charges are even proper. Now, I don't want to get into my legal head. I'm trying to stay focused on this proceeding. But to proceed, while these charges are in place, there are statutes on this. Okay? I supplied counsel with a letter outlining case law. We're going to bring that state to the judge. You know, I'm the new counsel to them. I've been involved with them for a few weeks, but new to the state process. And, you know, my hope is that cooler heads can prevail. And and the cooler heads here is very simple. You say they're a danger. I say show me, and we're done. They'll close the doors tomorrow. And what's going on with that? How could they be a danger in a karate school down the street? Karate school down the street open. In a smaller facility where you've got the same issues with regard to breath. Let's talk about health for a second. How could a karate school be open? Is that on its face to you guys? The guys who coach here in the town? The guys who serve on the library board? Does that sound fair to you? Most of the decisions you make on the council and as a mayor are based upon what you think is fair. But you're not experts in constitutional law. No one is that we sit on these boards and processes. And if you are, God bless you, we'll have a discussion outside. Just do what's right and do what's fair. I have not met anyone in this state that's put the safety protocols in place that these guys have. You can't have 18,000 people coming through your place. That's almost the size, that's more people, okay, they go to Hackensack Hospital in a month. My reference is North Jersey, sorry. Okay? Not one sick person. But before you vote on this, you've got to ask yourself this question. Does that really matter to you? Does that strike as being equitable and fair? I see a Notre Dame shirt. Yes? Fair enough? Yeah? Okay? My kid's at Georgetown. Sorry. Yeah. Well, it could be worse. Right? They could all be like, oh. So.
You better read slower than. Right?
Sorry, I don't want to get into it, but what do they teach in the university, right? Charitable, fairness, they teach that there. I'm assuming the Jesuit training is a little bit. Be fair to them. And if you are fair to them, you are fair. You know, they have 18,000 visitors. Do you know that they're even working out? Do you have any evidence of that? Outside of the point where they were outside working out, which they're told by the AG they can do. Every bit of evidence that came before you today is conclusions offered that have not been adjudicated. But two things. You do have the contempt issues. That's real. I promise you that it's not going to end there. Those contempt orders, and the good judge is doing what he thinks is right. I just disagree with him. Because he hasn't based his decisions on any scientific evidence. I asked him a question 2 days ago when I made my appearance with him. I said, Judge, if you have the evidence that the place is not safe, show it to us. We'll close it out. We'll close. Do you think they want to kill people? Not one case. Judge goes, oh, no, we got experts for that. And the Attorney General said, well, Mr. McCann, you're talking about appealing the order of the health director, of the Director of the Health Department. I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about appealing it because all I have is her declaration. That's Orwellian, sorry to say. Show me evidence. You know, let's think about evidence for a second in the context of local government. Someone runs a stop sign. Please come in. I observed, there was a stop sign, said, heck, I don't know about your community, I guess they closed down the cameras. But just a few years ago, they had cameras, and there was a car running stop sign. That's evidence. But, well, I didn't come to a complete stop. That's evidence, right? You have evidence. You guys have no evidence here. I appreciate the hard work that these guys are doing. They're tasked to report to you. Do you have a police committee here in town? Appropriate authority? Okay. So you have that, right? So the chief of police is saying, they're not harming anybody. They have their views, but they have to follow the law, right? So they're not doing anything they don't want to do. And I respect what they said and observed. But that's not a conclusion yet. That's an assertion. And they're doing their job, like I said. Everybody is trying to figure this out. But this right now is not an opportunity for my clients to be heard. I'm just a lawyer. He probably could have said it 10 times better than me and probably 10 times shorter. So I'm sorry if I put you to sleep. But I'm begging you, don't step into what I just watched and what I just saw. Do not vote based upon the things that were presented to you today. Because if you do, I'm just telling you it's a problem. And we don't need that. You don't want it. I don't want it. They don't want it. It's goofy, honestly. And I respect you taking the time to listen to me. I respect, Mayor, that you took the time to call a special meeting because of the urgency and your feelings on this matter. But you have the opportunity to join us in asking for the science. That's all we're asking for. You said you have it. Please help us. Show it. Because we don't have it. And if you have it, share it. They don't want to give it to us. Maybe they'll give it to a mayor and council. Thank you.
Robert,
Mayor, just briefly, if I may, and then a brief response. And I'm not here to advocate the revocation of the mercantile license or maintaining the mercantile license. Just present the information that was available to us and follow our local ordinance, which obligates you under your oath of office to protect the safety of your citizens and to regulate the safety of the businesses that operate in your community. And people with a lot more knowledge than me, maybe according to council, like the Commissioner of the Department of Health, ordered this gym closed. And they went to the court, and a court of competent jurisdiction, a superior court, which issues rulings, which you raise your hand when you're sworn in to follow the law as it comes down, either in statute or case law. And that judge, not with any of my participation, determined that they should not open. Despite that, I don't think there's anyone that hasn't seen those doors being kicked in. I think we all have. Okay? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. They're pushing the judge, and, you know, all due respect, they believe it's their constitutional rights. God bless them. But this isn't shocking. This is a minor license revocation matter, should you decide to go in that way. A license is a privilege, and that privilege can be revoked. And if you wanted to get crazy, there's a violation and penalty provision under this ordinance that we didn't even come close to, which would have allowed you to impose $2,000 for each and every day of violation, 90 days of community service, and up to 90 days in jail. So if you were here asking for $180,000 and 8,100 days in jail, then I'd agree with you that this was a fairly outrageous proceeding. But that's not what this is. That's not what this is at all. You know, we can play, and we all do it, what about isms? Well, what about the Department of Transportation? How come they can open? Well, what about this group? How can they do that? How come we can't do that? How about protesters? How come protesters don't get arrested for social distancing and they're picking on this gym? Okay, I know the constitutional arguments as to why that's the case, but as a layperson, sure, you're going to have questions about why this and not this. But don't lose focus on what we're here for. You're here representing the Borough of Bellmawr and its citizens. And your obligation is to look at and safeguard the safety of those citizens if you believe that a business that was given the trust to abide by laws is not abiding by those laws by ignoring the Department of Health's directive, by ignoring a judge's mandatory binding court order, to the point where the judge has taken a remedy that is highly unusual, a remedy of contempt of court. One time, I saw someone held in contempt of court, really. I mean, they say it a lot of times, they threaten it a lot of times, but it doesn't happen a lot. I mean, you really got to thumb your nose at a judge for him to decide to hold you in contempt of court. You know, I'm not adjudicating those cases, and this is not a trial. This is not a criminal proceeding. This is a minor administrative proceeding where you're to consider that if you believe that this is unsafe, this business is unsafe to your residents of Bellmawr, and you believe that laws and ordinances have been violated, whether they be ordinances that were discussed by Mr. Burley, our zoning and code enforcement officer, or by the chief, or by the captain, if you believe that there's been laws violated, you have the right, you may, and say shall, you can decide not to do it. You may revoke this license. But that's certainly your decision. And I'm not here as a prosecutor. I'm not trying to find anybody guilty. I'm just trying to get information before you so that you can make a knowledgeable decision. I'll give counsel credit. He threw me a couple bones right back at him. He's been an absolute gentleman to deal with. He's been a true professional, and he made a very impassioned plea. And thank you, wife, for her service to our state. Much appreciated, and the surrounding area in North Jersey. But there's 5 million cases in America. There's 165,000 people have died. 25% of the deaths in the entire world are in the United States. Why is that? Why does that happen? Think about that. And do you have an obligation to try and deal with that at a local level, to be safe, to try and be safe for your residents, to protect your residents? A lot of times that's not popular today. It's not popular at all in some people's eyes. But you got to do what you think is right. I'm not telling you to do this or not do this. In fact, individually walking in with Councilman Bider, he said, are you going to give us a recommendation? Absolutely not. You guys are going to listen and decide yourself. You're a jury in the technical sense. And it's your decision to make. So, unless there's anything else, did you want to address council rebuttal? If you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not going to make any further statements when you're done.
Thank you.
Unless you say something really crazy.
All I can tell you, counsel, is I like your choice of mask. But I do have to address what you said. And I appreciate counsel's position, except for one thing. When he says I'm not here to advocate, I mean, we're human beings. One of the things why you're here, as opposed to being on the video, and I remember our first transition, is so that we can interact, so we can see each other, so we can feel it. And although, despite counsel's comments that I'm not here to advocate, I'm getting text messages blowing up from YouTube saying he's advocating. And I said, yes, he is. I don't mean that as an offense. You were. Even despite the, oh, by the way, I'm not here to advocate. I'm here to advocate. But you said something real important. How many thousands of deaths did you say?
165.
Right. How many from the gym? Don't answer. None.
Do you know that?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I've visited their place. I've been to their
You know,
place.
there's someone
I've spoken to them, and I take my client at their word because they have not lied to a single person. They haven't lied to law enforcement. They haven't lied to the judge. That's one of the reasons why you have some contempt, because they're not lying. They're not putting lipstick on a mask. I take them at their word. okay? And I'll tell you this, if the state had evidence that there were people dying in the Bellmawr Attila's gym, you know about it. Heck, you know about everything else. And as I said, not one death, and I agree with you. No one wants to bring death and destruction and sick people to a place of business. They don't want to do it. So the concept that X amount of people died, we know that. I've witnessed it. I appreciate council's position, but it was advocacy, and that's okay. I get it. But, and you made the point for me. There's no evidence. And as layman, yes, you could look at these things, but those things are not conclusive yet. So what? If it's such a simple matter, such a minor detail, put it off. There's no need to step into something that we don't want to begin with this time. Put it off. I'm reminded, a quick story. I was 16 years old. I went to buy a car with my father. The car was a used Chevy Caprice station wagon, and it was $2,500, and my father said, I would like new tires, sir. And they haggled, Mr. McCann, it's only $250 for the new tires. What's the big deal? I was a 16-year-old kid, and I stood up and I asked the salesman, if it's only $250, you pay. You pay. What's the big deal here, guys? Do you have any evidence, counsel, that there are people dying there? Because that's the burden. It's not on us. But we're coming forth offering what we know.
You're suggesting that the burden is I have to prove that...
I'm suggesting...
If I may finish, sir.
Yes.
Are you suggesting that we have to prove that there's death and mayhem before we could rescind a privilege?
No, I would have to say that for you to invoke the number of deaths in your state, okay, invokes people dying. And I'm not suggesting you have to prove that there's death and mayhem.
Is there a fact that 165,000 people died in this country?
But counsel, in the context of which you stated it, doesn't relate to the Bellmawr gym, does it? Doesn't. Sorry. So, that's the point. Yes, it's your right, it's your individual choice. And I said I'd be short. And so please be mindful, be thoughtful. These are not easy decisions. Heck, I spent 9 years on a dais myself. We made some tough calls too. Not on this. But before you ruin someone's life, what you think is going on, or what is, have a basic fairness issue. What's the evidence? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Mayor, at this part, that would conclude the dialogue with respect to the information presented for which council can make a decision. Your choices are twofold. One is do nothing and move into public portion, which we're required to have, which is a choice that you can certainly make. The other is a motion and a second to revoke the mercantile license for Attila's Gym Bellmawr, corporately known as Triple Threat Gym LLC, and a voice vote and a roll call to determine whether or not there's a majority of council folks that believe that the mercantile license should be revoked under the discussions we held this evening. So that's where we are. Thank you, Mayor. Pardon?
Mayor, as a point of order, I have a question.
Yes.
And I don't know what the proper format or how to pose the question to Mr. Long or to Mr. McCann, but we're talking about the safety of the gym as it relates to the people that go in to work out. I have a concern through my constituents, things that I've heard, complaints with regard to the safety, their safety, so to speak. Some of them complaining about being afraid of going on the parking lot to go to the dollar store because of the protesters or the supporters, or whatever you want to call them. I have a concern with the safety of our police officers when the protesters or the supporters are following them around and filming them. I have a problem with the safety of our firefighters, where more recently, someone went over on the apron at a firehouse and was trying to elicit comments from them with regard to this. Again, I understand a business owner wanting to stay open. I also understand what their point is of it not being fair to them. What's not fair is the things that have been brought into this town as a result of the support that they requested and from whom they requested. That's my passion for my constituents, in that the safety for them being in town is being violated. That's where I stand. And again, I understand the point and I understand what they're trying to do and what they're saying. But that's my point of view. And again, when Mr. McCann talks about what the taxpayers would want, I have an idea of what the taxpayers want because I've heard from them. I've heard pluses and for and against. Most of them, the fear of the protesters or supporters, whatever they're called, that's the problem. And that's just my point of view.
Mayor, it would not be appropriate for us to go into any executive session. Your choice is you could also move the table, any action for tonight, and it would be a third choice. You could decide to act tonight if you chose that you wanted to act or do nothing. But it would have to start, if you wanted to act, it would start with a motion. If you did not want to act, you would just direct the clerk to move on to public portion.
I've had the same with the emails and phone calls, especially senior housing, free to go through the parking lot, go to the dollar store. And also from the Stardust, the dance studio, same problem there. You know, they're not our Bellmawr residents, which we have to look out for.
Sure, no, and that, Mayor, and I understand that. You also have to weigh the reasonableness.
Go
Well,
ahead, but I don't want to get into
Yeah,
it.
no,
I
it-
appreciate it, I don't want to get into it back and forth.
Yeah, if
If
I was
council
just
wants to have a
wanting-
discussion with the mayor, I get that, but go ahead, council. He opened the door, I'm going to let you.
Well, I'm not ever going to attack a mayor who believes he's doing what's in the best interest of his town. That's his job, and that's your job as councilman. But when I was a councilman, I got complaints all the time. One of the things I had to do was look into the reasonableness of the complaint. And from what I'm hearing, from what you said, there's complaints abound everywhere in this crisis. If they were closed, there's going to be complaints. I mean, so that's the choice that you have, right? But I would add this: what's the urgency before we become adversaries? What's the urgency? Because if there were people, I get what those are not invalid complaints, but those are complaints that people are going to have whether you put up a new stop sign. There's nothing unique to those complaints that I haven't heard in government. And
Council, can I ask you, aren't they already closed?
are they who? No, they are protesting right now.
Right, so, but they've been closed by other agencies.
No, they have been ordered closed, but it depends upon what you mean by closed.
Well,
Sorry to Bill Clinton.
There's been an issuance of it, there's been an issuance from the Department of Health that they closed, correct?
There's been an order for them to close.
Right, and there's been a judge upholding that order.
Correct.
And ordering them to close by court order.
Correct, and as I read the council, if you were going to put me under oath.
No, I'm just asking you to say, don't close them down, they already are.
Yes or no?
They may not be listening to it, but on the eyes of the law, they're already closed down.
I don't think that that's a complete accurate statement. I can understand.
It's not my intention to misstate.
I mean, I also am not here to, as I said, they cannot come forward and make a better case for themselves than I can. They can't do this in this process because of the Fifth Amendment. But I will say this, I'm just addressing what they said. And because I understand this situation, probably better than most council in the state. When you evaluate these complaints and these concerns, You have to wait. I can't make that call for you. You have to do that. He has to do it. They all have to do it. And you may fall down on that side. I understand. But the point I'm making is, when you can, quick story.
Yeah.
Quick story. New councilman in Cresco. His name was Keith. Says to me he wants to put a tree ordinance in town to keep the new developers, the builders, to keep, because he liked the trees. And I said to him, that's great. I didn't know we had a tree ordinance, a tree problem in town, that we don't have enough trees. He said, no, we don't have enough trees because of the building. I said, that's awesome. Go out and show the borough, and the mayor and council that there's not enough trees. Outside what you think colloquially, what you think is right. Go, get the evidence. You know what he found, Mayor? He came back. This was a guy I recruited to run for council. He said, you know what, John? There were more trees in Cresco before Cresco was built. Because it was built in the valley. And he learned. So he wanted to pass an ordinance because he thought it was in the best interest of the town. Because he perceived that there was not enough trees and we were losing trees. That was his perception. And then we dug into the actual evidence. The evidence presented him with, oh, I was wrong. All I'm suggesting here is we need, if you're going to act as a body, I just think it's fair to wait for the scientific evidence that's been promised by the state that they have. If you want to keep your town safe and your other business community safe and protected, and those citizens who are afraid, before you close them down, you demand to see the signs from the governor. Forget about your party. This is our community. When I served, it wasn't about party. It was about the rec center we built. It was about making sure the rec committee wasn't going crazy because someone's son wasn't the starting shortstop on the travel baseball team. This is different. This is a man's life. So that's my point. Thank you.
Motion?
So I may have a motion to go ahead and revoke the road permit.
Second.
Motion made.
So we have a motion and a second to revoke the mercantile license by Councilman Casey and Councilman Wilhelm. Roll call would be appropriate, Mayor.
Grant, roll call?
Councilman DeAngelis?
No.
Councilman Casey?
Yes.
Councilman D'Angelo?
Yes.
Councilman Wilhelm?
Yes.
Councilman Haggerty?
Yes.
Councilman Bider?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries 5-1 vote.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, council.
Move on, Mayor. Keep our meeting moving.
Correct.
At this point in time, we'll go to a mandatory portion of our meeting, our public portion. Before I do, a few ground rules. The Borough of Bellmawr highly values the input of the citizens in making important decisions that affect the residents of our communities. We also believe in the rights of citizens to observe governing body meetings. To ensure that all of our citizens have an opportunity to attend and participate in our meetings and offer comment, and to ensure the governing body can conduct the important business of the borough, we ask the speakers follow these guidelines for making public comments. Please respect the following procedures. 1, the mayor or the clerk will recognize those individuals either in the audience or participating virtually who wish to make a comment. All members of the public attending or participating in the Borough Council meeting electronically must treat each other, the mayor, and the Borough Council with respect. You need to state your full name and address for the record before speaking. Please limit your comments to 4 minutes. If you have a question that we are unable to answer at the meeting, feel free to submit your questions to the Borough Clerk in writing and include your name, address, and telephone number where it can be contacted, and your questions will be answered within a reasonable time. Individuals offering comments are not permitted to make personal attacks on any employee, the mayor, or any member of Borough Council, other testifiers, or members of the public. In order to conduct the important business of the borough, the mayor and Borough Council reserve the right to limit the public portion to a period not to exceed 2 hours in duration. At this point in time, Mayor, if you would open the matter to the public.
This time, we open the public portion to the public. Fran?
Can we open to who's here first and then open up?
You can do whatever you'd like, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
Whatever you'd like to do, we can do.
Can we?
Your
Okay.
call.
Who's
Mhm.
in the building?
In the building
Open
first.
up to the,
Sure.
Then
Thank you.
Fine. First one, come forward, please, to the mic.
Good evening, my name is Joe Ferrandino. I'm from Sterling, New Jersey. As far as I know, you all voted to revoke the gym's license, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. A couple of things I'd like to bring up. One of them is the Constitution of the United States, that all people, all citizens are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And anything that violates that, any ordinance, law, or what have you, is null and void to that effect. The other thing is that, following this closely, there have been a number of judges that already decided, or they think, that this council will be found wrong in shutting down the gym and in canceling his ability to pursue his livelihood. So I wish he's a lot of luck when it does finally go to court. The other thing, when we talked about the numbers, it has been known throughout the land that these numbers are skewed. People being shot in the chest are listed as COVID deaths. People dying of heart attacks, diabetes, lung disease are all listed as COVID deaths. At this point, with the amount of people that are dying and the numbers being skewed and the whole politicizing of this issue, it is no longer about a virus. This is about people who are in control and taking advantage of the governed, the people that you're supposed to represent. It's got nothing to do with the virus, disease, infections, etc. It's all a matter of control. But you shutting down this man's business and letting the people down the street open up, I do believe that is application of the law unjustly. In other words, there's a special set of rules for the big box stores and the post office, etc. And then the little guy, the working class people, the blue collar people that make up the backbone of our freedom, those are the people that are being persecuted right now. So when you talked about the people protesting, I was at a number of those protests. You probably see me on camera. Maybe your officers remember me. I'm kind of hard to forget. Nobody that I knew of harassed or created any unsafe situation for your citizens. People were dealt with the utmost respect. I would not want anybody to bring any bad publicity to these gentlemen. Their fight is everybody's fight in the state of New Jersey that owns a restaurant, a dancing school, a nail salon, etc. All the businesses that the government has deemed unessential. I'm sure, and I do not mean this disparagingly, but everybody who's a state, city, and federal worker all got paid. Am I correct? Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Mayor and Council, my name is David Padua, 1981 McKee Avenue, in Deptford. I used to be in construction. I have my own business. I'm a disabled veteran now. And I would say this to council. Your house, your home, is uninhabitable. I haven't inspected it. The gentleman there has not inspected it. It's uninhabitable. Let's shut it down. How many in council, how many in state have been to this gym and inspected it? Did you know that they're using special infrared lights to clean it? Nobody knows because they have not gone in there. They have not gone in there. That sign behind the mayor says progress never stops. It sure is. It's wrong because what you're doing here, you're preventing progress from continuing. As far as the protests, I'll tell you, I've been there at every single one. We support the police. okay? Antifa, according to one of the officers, didn't know about Antifa. Well, one Antifa individual was there. We did not approach, we did get close to him when he threatened his fiancée. That's what it took for the police to come down. All of you swore an oath with your hand on the Bible to uphold this township. That means, that tells me you're all the voice of the people. Is this really what the people want? Think of your community. Is this really what the people want? Thank you.
Yes. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Dominic Cortelli, and I live in Lafayette, New Jersey. I drove 2.5 hours to get here today. I don't know the gym owners personally, but I see what's happening to them, and I think a lot of people do. I came down here to speak for the people that are just trying to make a living with their small businesses. The governor is picking and choosing who gets to make a living, and it's wrong. We are here because of the governor's executive orders, not because of the town of Bellmawr. And the complaints about the protesters that are at the gym wouldn't exist if the governor hadn't been abusing his power by shutting down lawful businesses. We need to keep in mind that the governor's executive orders are not law. Listening to everyone here, I hear a lot about what powers the government has, but not so much about what rights the people have. And I think everyone forgets that too often. The governor said on national TV that he doesn't consider the Bill of Rights with his directives. In fact, he says they're above his pay grade. It's really sad. You guys have chosen to be accomplices in the governor's abuse of power. And you have refused to stand with we the people and our constitutional rights. This is a sad day. Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name's Andy Goodpastor. I live at 32 Billy Ellis Lane, Princeton, New Jersey. It's as the council said, this is an issue of science. You can quote all the laws in the world, but things go above laws. It goes to the point of right and wrong. Specifically, there is no science on their side. This is being shown over and over again. I've listened to medicine for 30 years. My dad worked for Time magazine. So I know how to do research. I understand how to do that. I understand not to believe in headlines. You have to do it, especially at a time like this, because this is coming down way too much about something that's never been isolated. The PCR test, Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test, said it should never be used for viruses. It takes 3-4 snippets of genes, and it compares that to a 20,000 basis of a genome. So it takes 200 to 300 basis snippets of genes, and it compares it to a 20,000 basis genome. There's no way it's going to find the virus. Mullis knew that. You know, you talk about the death statistics, the test is not working. So it's having many false positives. The Italy deaths, 96% of them had other diseases. 59% of them had 3 or other diseases. The 2 top diseases are heart disease and cancer. 95% of cancer is preventable. That's in the literature. I can show you the studies. You want to see them? I'll send them to you. It's going to the Supreme Court in October, this issue. If 95% of cancer is preventable, what's going on here? Yet Deborah Birx said, we're gonna label it COVID. So she said on national TV, if they die of something else, we're gonna say it's COVID if they tested positive. There are so many holes in this argument that everybody should just take 50 steps back at this point, because it's coming down way too hard. You know, all the signs are showing that masks are no good. You know, it's massive amounts of CO2, you know, a lack of oxygen. It's going against the OSHA standards. It's chaos. This is social chaos on some level. The science is not on Murphy's side. It's questionable what his motives are. And if you really look at the literature, the science is on the side that even if you look at the numbers, it has a lower death rate than the flu. If you look at the overall numbers of just how many people died, there have been massive more amounts of people that have died from other diseases. The CDC last month said there are more people dying of suicide in this country now than the COVID. I believe it's suicide and drug.
That is your 4 minutes,
Oh.
sir, but if you can just wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have, you know, more people committing suicide and drug overdoses than COVID deaths, you know, but we don't have hearings about that.
Thank you, sir. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, Neil Levy, 69 Lone Star Lane, Manhattan, New Jersey. So I came down here today, Mayor, council members, Madam Clerk, and what I wanted to say, I'm going to say, but I just wanted to bring up the council member who's sitting at the table here. He said that there was a concern from his constituents about going to the dollar store and the dance studio while there were people protesting. And the hypocrisy of that statement really got to me.
I didn't say the dance studio.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. The dollar store. So people can come to the parking lot, go to the dollar store, shop. The clerks are there every day. They're seeing hundreds of people a day. But you can't go to the gym. And that type of hypocrisy is where people like me are really becoming concerned with how the government is handling this situation. I was in Walmart the other day doing my food shopping. The clerks in Walmart seeing thousands of people a day. The place was mobbed. We were shoulder to shoulder. But we can't go to church. And it's the hypocrisy that's really bothering me. I can go to the dollar store but not the gym. I can go to Walmart but not the church. And this is why we elected you, to alleviate that hypocrisy and see the true meaning of what we're doing. And it just seems that we're not seeing that. We're really not seeing that. So I've been a homeowner in New Jersey since 1996. I've been a small business owner in New Jersey since 1999. I've raised 3 children here. One of them is a nurse in Hackensack Hospital. She did the COVID intake. She's been there on the front lines through the whole thing. I get a phone call from her. Dad, we cured cancer in May in Hackensack Hospital. Honey, I love you. You're the best. How'd you do that? Everyone's dying from COVID. There's no cancer deaths in Hackensack Hospital. There's a lot of hypocrisy. Okay? What I wanted to say was I'm also an Army veteran. And when I was 18 years old, I stood at the East German border. And I have pictures of me at the East German border, at the fence. And then there was the minefield, and then there was the East German guard towers with the machine gunners. And my sergeant said, hey, you want to be a communist? If you can make it through the minefield, they'll take you. But the minefield and the fence and the guards are not there to keep you out. They're to keep the people in. Because they have no freedoms, and they have no liberty. And at 18 years old, that really struck me. And what I see today is that our liberties and our freedoms are not slowly being taken. They're quickly being taken. When the governor can make an executive order, and now we're going 6 months into this, on a science that's not there, we know the inflated numbers, we really know. Everybody in here is a big boy and big girl. We know reality, okay? I don't think what we did was right. That was your decision. I just wish that everyone here would think about what they're doing, because this person is going to lose their home, their business, pretty much everything. The other partner will too.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Not to interrupt.
Please.
I want you to try to understand a position, all right? You don't live in Bellmawr. So far, nobody's lived in Bellmawr. We're the only ones that live in Bellmawr, right?
I agree.
Okay. Everybody who's come here has come here in their defense, and you're all going with the governor's executive decision. Okay?
I was actually talking about this decision here.
Okay,
I
all right.
listened, I was here, but
But
please.
it always goes back to the governor's executive decision. Since that executive decision came out, it's been a circus in this town. Which I think if it happened, and I'm taking a guess, in your town, I want you to try to put yourself in our position. We have a business owner, number one, who doesn't want to listen to the governor.
I'm trying.
What?
I'm gonna
I'm
shut
sorry.
this off.
And has a rally protest or whatever, who brings the national media. Christ, we have a picture of a white supremacist with a flag, okay? Professional protesters come in, we know, and turns it into a sideshow. On top of that, a few of the people decide to go out on YouTube and try to instigate altercations with the police department. We've seen it. It's out there. You can YouTube it. It's there.
I will not,
No,
I will
okay.
agree with everything that you
Okay.
said.
So far, the circus keeps going and going and going. Do you know, and I'm going to take a guess. I didn't have a chance to ask you yet. But if there's any business owner that has a problem in town, pretty much the doors are open. You want to come in and talk to anybody here, we're more than willing to talk to you if you have a problem. Try to get you whatever problem you may have, try to help the business in town. I don't think these guys have ever even approached anybody, right? Okay. Never even came and say, hey, Mayor, this is what's going to happen, this is where we are, what can we do together to get this place open? Never happened. All of a sudden, on a Sunday night, if I remember correctly, my phone's blasting because I have somebody with a Bellmawr versus everybody shirt on the YouTube channel saying how we're going to start, we're going to go out and this is what we're going to do. Okay. So now, the 7 of us here have to make a decision on a circus that is continually going through this town. And I will tell you, sir, that our constituents, they've had it because it's in their town. We're a small town. We're not that big, okay? Pretty much everything runs pretty smooth until this happens. Now, I would venture to guess that if these two gentlemen came and talked to the mayor, or any of us, but primarily the mayor, it wouldn't have got to this point. Okay? Now, I don't know the governor. I don't think many people here do. Okay? It's his executive order. That's fine. But I want you to understand the decisions, most of the decisions that came here tonight, the no votes. Yeah, the bottom line is he broke the law. The law is whatever, whether you believe it's a law or not. The governor came down, and this is what it is, and that's what it is. But everybody, I would venture to guess, that everybody at this table remembers the YouTube videos where they went after our cops. And here's something that a lot of people don't know. Our town, they like our cops. We're police friendly in this town. We like every one of them. Personally like them. And when somebody goes out and attacks our cops, you attack us. Because we like these guys. Like, why would you go after our cops? But yet they did. So everything that they did, okay, got us to this point. This isn't something we just woke up one morning and say, hey, let's just grow them, let's put them out of business. This is a progressive chain that got us here. And I guarantee you, you strike me as being somebody who's on the ball, knows his stuff. If this was in your town, you'd never let this happen. Never.
Sir, I agree with everything that you say, and I agree with backing the police. I just think that what has happened here, and it is bad that it's in your town, and it would be bad if it was in my town, that it became a rallying point against what a lot of people think is a draconian policy by the governor. And I back the police. I'm a veteran. I have friends that are police officers. I understand what happened in the town. I just see that there is some hypocrisy. But I want to thank everyone for their time. I appreciate your decision, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Fran, one,
Can you
two,
give me a moment to unmute everyone?
Yeah. No. Well, unless there's questions, I think.
Is that gonna go?
Yeah, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Wait, unless somebody has a question for you.
They're not gonna take questions.
No, we're not, they're just thanking him.
Oh, thank you.
It's just statement, so you got it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anybody want to order?
No, good.
So you wanna take a moment for,
Anybody need water up there?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks all.
We have to get our names if
Okay.
we would like to speak. I'm not sure how you're doing it.
Yes, if you give me, I need your name and address.
I apologize. Can you say that one more time?
Your name and address, please?
My name is Dawn Fantasia. I'm Franklin, New Jersey. I'm the Sussex County Freeholder Deputy Director.
Thank you. Go ahead, you can proceed.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, first, thank you again for making this virtual. Some of us that live in different parts of the state, it was difficult for us to make it there. I myself am also a middle school principal in Bergen County, and I just, I'm grateful that we were able to listen to everything that had happened in a virtual manner. First, to address the governing body, I want to say that I can relate when you say when things happen in your town and, or in our county. In Sussex County, something really horrific happened to us in Andover Borough, and you saw it was national news with the New York Times, and it happened to be an executive order that came out of Trenton about admitting COVID-positive patients into nursing homes, and we house Andover Subacute, which is the largest nursing home in the state of New Jersey, and was absolutely ravaged and devastated. I had neighbors who lost parents and family members, and it was one of the most horrific situations that we faced where the spotlight was on us, so I can appreciate those comments because we too have been the victim of executive orders. What I would like to say is I'm not surprised by seeing some of these challenges that, for instance, have just happened out of Achilles Gym. I think there's a myopic vision on display by these executive orders, and they really leave little to no room for consideration of facts. I think they alienate business owners, and I think these EOs continue to fail the business owners of New Jersey. And for me, I just shake my head that we are legislating in such an unequitable way to create a class of winners and losers during a public health crisis. For now, the way I see it is things I've done post-COVID-19, curb flapping, under the consent or allowance of executive orders. All these things require disinfection and close physical contact. I went for, a haircut, brow wax, manicure, pedicure. I even got a tattoo. And those individuals had to lay hands on me. What I was not able to do was use my gym membership. Although dance studios, martial arts places are open, casinos are open, mass transit, summer camps, full contact sports, daycare, and my school is about to open as well, of course, with strict safety procedures. So I think just, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. There is a very, very loud swell of small business owners in the state that feel like they have been alienated. And I think what happened here today, again, is, I appreciate you sharing the things about wanting to protect your police department and your communities. I absolutely, value that, and I appreciate that, and we feel the same way up here about protecting our law enforcement. We're very pro-law enforcement. But on the other side of that piece, this is a business in your town, and I'm urging you to take a larger look, and I know you've already made your vote, and I'm sure this will make its way up the courts, but I'm urging you to take a look as a governing body as to what everybody you represent would like. Not just, so that you're not picking winners and losers in your very own community. These are business owners that pay taxes, and I think that you have the responsibility to also represent their interests. I don't think, with all due respect, gentlemen, that you needed to strip them of their license today. I think that was overarching, and I think it's damaging, and it doesn't promote unity. It's only going to further stoke the fire, and there is a bill that is pending now that I pray is passed, and everybody in the state is aware of, to limit Governor Murphy's executive order powers to 14 days without legislative review. And if you're not familiar with that, I suggest you read it. Senator Steve Orho was one of the main sponsors from District 24. It is about time that science is reintroduced, and at the very least, if we want to play politics, that it goes before the legislators, the 120 legislators in New Jersey that we've elected to represent us, not one man who lives in drum brackets. So I'm just saying, I think the decision you made tonight is going to have some serious blowback. I appreciate the comments that you made about it, but I vehemently disagree with it. And you know what? If those business owners were up here in my town or in my county, I would work for ways to bridge the gap between the police department and them, but I sure as heck would not be alienating them in this way. I think this was shameful. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, should I speak in now?
Sure.
I'm waiting online.
Your name?
My name is Barbara Holstein. My address is 127 Hemlock Hill, Montague, New Jersey.
No one can hear, Fran.
What was the address again?
127B, Hemlock Hill, Montague, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Shall I start speaking?
Yes, you can hear.
Okay, thank you very much for allowing this to be done virtual as well as in person. I've been listening since the beginning, as soon as I could call in. I've been coming to Bellmawr since May 18th. I'm one of those people that was referred to as the circus. I did not know Ian and Frank prior to this, but having a daughter who's recently become a United States Marine in January, and her physical fitness is something that she has taken very seriously over the past 2 years. I know what it's like for the gyms to be open. All of her peers that were signed up for early enlistment participated in intensive training prior to boot camp. She would not have been able to do that in a COVID world, and I am thankful that she was able to. There's been a lot of comments made here today. I do not appreciate all the circus.
I don't know how to put on speaker.
I am not a circus, and I want to stress to the council, each and every member, and I do believe the vote was 5-1.
So they already voted
Courageous
for
person
any
who,
public opinion.
I don't know
to
who's
revoke their
talking, but
license.
somebody else is talking.
And now it's virtual, people there.
Any person who,
talking
the
about-
5-1 vote, is there someone talking near the phone?
5-1 vote to revoke their license.
Okay, 5-1 vote, yes, to revoke the license. That person who was the lone vote was the voter for the people, we the people. I would beg to know if you would call the people who are protesting BML rallies, if you called them a circus, to the gentleman who used that reference. As far as the police go, I've been following this on every source and every Facebook posts, I have seen zero validation of any legitimate video or accusations towards the police. Frank and Ian have signs on their windows. They have gone out of their way to make sure that anyone who was at that facility was respectful of all the police. Over and over again, those gentlemen have made sure that the people coming to support were supporters of the Back the Blue, and all of us are. I have not seen one person who did not support the police or the town of Bellmawr. So we have patronized your businesses, we have patronized your restaurants, and we have stood behind your business owner who needs and deserves to have his right to pursue his business as constitutionally guaranteed. So I take offense that we were called a circus. Secondly, I am the person who walked down the sidewalk to say hello to the police officers and check out the one armored vehicle that had an OME spray painted on it. I'm the person. And I was deeply offended that every single one of those gentlemen turned their backs on me like I had a problem. None of them had masks on. They were not socially distancing, and I wasn't going to say anything about this until it was pointed out in your lawyer's comments that they were in fear, that I tried to speak to them. When is it a crime to walk down a public sidewalk and say hello to the public servants who the taxpayers are paying to be there? And those people were from Camden County. So it's not just taxpayers from Bellmawr that are there. Those were taxpayers' dollars from Camden County.
Jesse James.
So I would really ask that this town council sit back, evaluate your decision, and come back to the diocese and rescind your decision. Revoke your decision to revoke this license from this good business. Let their business play out in court. Let their business keep their licensure.
Okay, thank you.
Fines, your summonses.
Your 4 minutes is up, thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
I would like to say a word if I could.
Sure, your name?
Sure, Megan Stacy.
Your
Live
address?
in Flemington, New Jersey. Megan Stacy, Flemington, New Jersey.
Thank you, go ahead.
So I have been following this all along also, and I am in New Jersey. All the gyms are obviously closed. I have to drive an hour to Pennsylvania to go to Orange Theory, which is open and fine, and the restaurants, we go to Lambertville, New Jersey. Basically, Governor Murphy has killed all those businesses, but you go over the bridge to New Hope, and it's as lively as can be, and they're thriving. So my question would be, why doesn't Murphy talk to Governor Tom Wolf, and why don't they discuss how they're thriving in Pennsylvania? Their gyms are open, their indoor dining is open, and why can't he mirror some of what they're doing? And that would be all I have to say as far as he is absolutely killing small businesses and picking and choosing. Like everybody said, MMA fighting, if someone gets punched in the stomach, they spit all over you. His soccer team is open, that's a highly contact sport. So, and people can play soccer and contact sports, so why can't we work out from a distance at our own stations, indoors, with the whole ventilating system that they have set up, that they're bringing in outdoor air and they're purifying it? There is no logic. And again, I have to travel an hour to go to the same gyms that are all stuck out in New Jersey.
Maribel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did that conclude?
Is anyone else online that'd like to speak?
Yes, sorry, this is Jesse Jameson, 66 Warren Ave, Bellmawr, New Jersey.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Finally from Bellmawr.
Have a good evening.
You as well.
Okay.
Is there any else on the line?
Just make sure, Fran, we don't want to cut it early. We want this to be as transparent as possible, so make sure we...
Is there anybody else online that would like to speak?
And I would wait about another 30 seconds and then make that announcement again, and then
Okay.
wait another 30 seconds.
Ridiculous.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the line that would like to speak?
Kathleen Morgan?
Kathleen, can I have your address, please?
323 Fifth Avenue in Bellmawr.
Go ahead, you can go ahead. Proceed.
I would like to start out by saying that I understand the real struggles and sacrifices made to keep a small business open, especially when things look bleak and you enter survival mode. In the beginning, I supported Ian and Frank in their endeavor to keep the gym open while keeping patrons safe. I supported when they announced their own guidelines and felt they could prove to me that they could be a small solution to a big problem. They could have been a model for other small businesses, but they chose not to implement those guidelines. And that's when I feel they let me down as a patron of their establishment. There are photos on social media proving they did not follow these guidelines, showing unmasked people that were not social distancing. With that being said, their actions demonstrated that they did not care about me or any other patron. So, I feel they shouldn't even question why they are sitting in the courtroom tonight.
I'll go ahead.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah,
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
we buy. There's no need.
I didn't realize it's off mute.
He's on mute now.
Anybody, Fran?
Last announcement, if there's anyone on the line that would like to speak.
Close public portion in about 30 seconds. Madam Clerk, if no one responds.
Okay. Mayor, I have no one else coming forward if you would like to close public portion.
Okay, at this time, we'll close the public portion, and having no further business, ask for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Fran?
Councilman DeAngelis?
Yes.
Councilman Casey? Councilman D'Angelo?
Yes.
Councilman Wilhelm?
Yes.
Councilman Hagerty?
Yes.
Councilman Bider?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.